So welcome, I'm Rafaela, and this is a clip about Jesus' birth, how it was written in the stars. The stars tell us very exactly when Jesus was fertilized, or Mary was fertilized with Jesus, and when Jesus' heartbeat started. The stars tell us about Jesus. That's why they are there in the sky. This is astronomy, a study of the planets and constellations. They don't, this is not astrology. Astrology is, well, it's kind of soothsaying. And we don't do that. We study the planets and the stars according to the Bible. Now, in Revelation 12:1, the Bible tells us that there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. Now, this woman is the constellation of Virgo. We have here, you see the picture, and here on top, you see the time. This is the year 7 BC, also called -6. And then we have, this is July 11th. This is just the time I started to study this. Now, here we have buttons. We can go study this constellation and what happens. In July, we have the planet Venus entering Virgo. And as time goes on, you see here we have hours, minutes, and seconds. This program is Stellarium. It's a very easy to use program, and it's totally for free. So please help them donate something. And if you're interested in these, you can look this up for yourself. You don't need me to do it. So here we see Venus is entering Virgo, and it's now in Virgo, and here time goes on. Now the moon goes, and here comes Mercury. Let's stop this for a second. Mercury represents Angel Gabriel. He's the angel in God's presence. And we shouldn't worship angels, but we should respect them. They have to actually obey us, which is kind of something people don't really understand. Now Mercury enters the constellation of Virgo on the 14th of August. So this is probably around the time Mary receives the message. It's still now in Leo. You can see here we are studying Mercury, and it's in Leo. And here we go on. Now it's in Virgo on the 14th of August. Here you can see in Virgo. These pictures are nice and they help, but they are not 100% accurate to the eye, so you have to still study constellations by what the calculations say. That the constellations have remained approximately the same over the years. Very much the same, actually. Now, at the end of the time is being shortened. That means a year is shorter than it used to be. We don't know how much this will affect these readings that we read now. And I don't think they have changed this program so that they would know ahead of time how these times change. So here Mary gets the message from Angel Gabriel, sometime when Mercury is in the constellation of Virgo. Then we go on. Mercury goes further into Virgo, and then the Sun enters Virgo. And Sun is the power of God, represents the power of God. The stars were made like a picture book for God's children, for them that study it. The Kohanim, the high priests of old, and I don't know if the priests studied this as well, but the very high priests, they studied the stars to lead people in addition to other leadings they had. And the Kohanim, the word in Hebrew means star. Kohav is star. So this is very interesting point. Now, in Revelation 12:1, she's clothed with the sun. She's right now. The moon is under her feet. We see the moon here, and at the present, it's still in Leo. And when we go on, it gets to closer. Now it's in Virgo. The moon is in Virgo. It's not under her feet yet, but as we wait, it will get under her feet. Now it's already in Libra, so we have to be very exact to study these things. We take it back a little bit. Till the moon is in Libra. If it's under her feet, it has to be in Virgo, not in Libra. So here we go. There we go. Now, I have studied this very carefully, and this constellation, when Virgo is clothed with the sun and the moon is under her feet, is fulfilled on the 28th of August in the year 7 BC, between 5 and close to 6, and then the moon goes out. And she's clothed with 12 stars on her head. She has 9 stars in the constellation of Leo, and she has 3 stars in the constellation of Coma Berenices. Now this is the lion's tail, or tuft, or mane, and it distanced itself a bit. There has been a change here, and I'm not sure how we can measure all these things, and I don't know how accurate such readings are. But Coma Berenices has 3 planets in it, so 3 plus 9 makes 12. The Virgo is crowned with 9 planets, 9 crowns, 9 stars. Now, Coma Berenice's real name is Comach. It would have an H at the end. And the Berenices is not its God-given name. Queen Berenices, I think she was Egyptian. She had cut her hair to save her loved one, and somebody named the constellation after her as a comfort. Well, God names the stars and planets. God has named them according to his own word. God named the planets and stars, and he didn't use Queen Berenice's hairpiece for that. Kuma, it means it's a name for this lion's tail, and it there was an Arabic astronomer. Notice, astronomer, not astrologer, astronomer. His name was Abu Mazar, and he saw this planet as a mother with a child. In Greek, they named it Christos, and in Hebrew, Jesus. The Hebrew language didn't originally have the name J, they had I, Jesus. So this three constellation tale depicts Mary with her son Jesus, basically, and the Virgo is crowned with 12 stars. It has the moon under its feet, or she has, and she's clothed with the sun. I studied these constellations from 11 BC. This is the only time that these parameters are all fulfilled. This is exactly the moment when Mary got impregnated or fertilized by God, and Jesus is the only begotten Son. God had him this way, fertilized by and a woman gave birth. So Mary was fertilized by God. Now we know from physiology that the fertilization takes mostly place 2 weeks after the woman's last menstrual cycle. And if we count 6 weeks from that time, so that will be 2 weeks before this, it would be 14th of August would have been her last menstrual cycle. So if we count then 6 weeks from that time, that would point to a time when the embryo, the fetus, gets a heartbeat. Or we could say 4 weeks from this time, approximately. So we can count from this time 4 weeks, which is 4 times 7, which is 28 days. And if we count from Mary's last menstrual cycle, then it would be 6 weeks. 6 times 7, 42 days. And we count the 28 days from this. So we landed August 23rd, 24th. Now the Hebrew days changed at sunset. The new day started at sunset. So it's different. And we don't know exactly the hour, but I would say it would be on the cusp of the 23rd and 24th. Maybe the 24th, or we could see when the moon and sun are in conjunction, that these conjunctions point here you see moon and sun are in conjunction in Virgo. It's the 23rd of September, and it's after sunset. It's 9 o'clock at night that this time comes. It can be calculated very exactly, and you can see here the moon. It's 100% lit, and if we go to, we can count. This can be counted. You can get the program and you can just do this yourself too. But it's around the 23rd after sunset. 23rd of September after sunset. Now I checked then the Israeli calendar, the Hebrew calendar for this day, and you know, the world was created according to the Hebrew tradition, according to how they calculated time on the 1st of Tishri. They have two different ways to calculate time. They have a moon calendar, and then they have two different beginnings of their years. The legal year starts on Tishri 1, and the spiritual year starts on Nisan 1. Now, this is Tishri 1 in the Hebrew calendar. So Jesus' heartbeat started on Tishri 1, when the world was created. So he didn't just come back as a human. He came back to redo some of the creation. He came back, his heartbeat started on Tishri 1 in the year 7 BC. In the Hebrew calendar, this would be 3755 year. So I have calculated those, and I have a book as a download if people are interested. Now, we can count from here then. If we take from her last menstrual cycle, we end up 9 months later, 280 days from that time, and we get the physical birth date. Hebrews counted birth from heartbeat. Some say from fertilization. Well, I think it was from heartbeat. So it's very interesting. So if we go on. Oh, I wanted to show them. Sorry. Let's go back. 9 and 23. Now, this is the Virgo. If we look at what happens on the other side of the horizon, we see when the heartbeat started, Jupiter, which depicts Jesus, and Saturn, which is the new church, the church that he brought, they are in conjunction. This is the constellation of Pisces, which means the constellation of priesthood. There are two fish, and that means there are two priesthoods. One of them was the priesthood of Israel at that time, also depicted as Uranus, planet Uranus, and the other one was the priesthood of Parthia, Scythia, and Bactria, also depicted as Saturn. Now this Parthia, Scythia, Bactria. These were Israeli nations that had fled and refused to go to live under King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, and later in Medo-Persia. When Medo-Persia had dominion in those areas, they had these three tribes had formed allied nations with the Ashkenazis. The Ashkenaz was Japheth's grandson. So these nations lived in the mountains of Caucasian mountains, and they lived in a peaceful coexistence with their uncle nation, so to speak. And they had their own priesthood. Daniel had converted later, or earlier to this time. Daniel had converted the Parthians, the Babylonians first, and then the Medo-Persians later turned Parthia. Today this area is Iraq, Iran. Had converted them to Israeli ways, so they had their own priesthood, and that's the other fish. So there were two priesthoods at that time. The Israeli nation was overtaken at the time of Jesus' birth by Romans. So this is maybe important to understand. Anyway, so Jesus was this is Jesus's heartbeat. And then if we go to the time of 9 months later, that would be 6 BC and 23rd of May. It's just the time I calculated. Now we know Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, and if Jupiter depicts that, then Jupiter should be in the constellation of Aries, the Lamb, and that's exactly where Jupiter is. So we can see here, this would be the way constellations were at Jesus' physical birth. Now, I can't be 100% sure about this timeline because sometimes children are born a little bit later than the 28 days, sometimes a little bit earlier. But it looks like it would be correct. There was a time a little bit earlier when Venus and Jupiter are in conjunction. So I considered this too. But the 23rd is actually the Hebrew Pentecost Day, when they were freed from Egypt. And I think this is the correct day. It would fit very well. Now, Jesus' life, even when he was a fetus, portrays all Israeli high and holy days. According to my calculations, he fulfills everything, every high and holy day that there ever was in the Hebrew way. So Jesus fulfilled it all. His life later, everything is totally matches the Hebrew calendar of life, so to say, or the Hebrew ways. So I think this was Jesus' real birthday. He was born in the year 6 BC or -5, May 23rd. And if this is correct, then from the Bible we know that Mary got fertilized by God in the 6th month, and the 28th of August, which we counted, is the 3rd of Elul, which is the 6th month. And at that same time, Elizabeth was in her 6th month. So if we calculate back from that time, approximately something between 5 and 6 months, we should find Elizabeth's conception. I count conceptions and births to be when there's a conjunction with the sun and moon. That's just physically, if you ask any nurse, they would know most births take place at full moons when the moon starts again. So this is just a physiological fact. So if we go back now, from this time we would have to go back 6 plus 9 months. That's 15 months. And we should find first Elizabeth's conception time and understand that. It would be according to the Hebrew calendar. If Elul is the 6th month, then 6 months back would be around Nisan, which is the beginning of the spiritual year. So Jesus was to be the King of Kings, but John the Baptist was to be the high priest. So here here we can then go back, okay, 15 months, 9 plus 6. We go back here, we count 15 months. 2, 3, 4. So it would be something like this. I don't know the days, but I have calculated these times, and you can be sure. Now, before Elizabeth got impregnated, Angel Gabriel appeared to Zacharias. And you can read this all in Luke 1. I have made a clip with all the information. It doesn't seem to interest people so much. Now, if we look at the constellations and stars, when Zacharias got the message from Angel Gabriel, people were outside the temple, standing and staring at the sky, and they wanted to ask their priest that, well, what's going on? What is this incredible symphony of stars that shines brightly like a day? And this is the moment, the time when these constellations were shining like that. Here we have Jupiter and Venus conjunction in Pisces in the constellation of priesthood. We have Uranus, we have Mercury, we have Saturn. So this is a 5-star conjunction lit with the sun. Now this would have been shining like bright, very bright in the night sky. And even daytime, of course, you could see this because it was lit with the sun. And when the sun set, it would have been really, really, really shining strong. Even the sunset, there's a certain light on it. And my friends, I tell you this is the Star of Bethlehem, or actually it's the stars of Bethlehem. There was a conjunction of 5 planets together in the priestly constellation of Pisces. This is when Zacharias received the message from Angel Gabriel that he would give birth to a son, and that Jesus would be born as well. And Zacharias was told that he should name his son John. We say John. I think in Hebrew that would be Yochanan. I don't speak Hebrew, so anyway, now Elizabeth's conception would have been shortly after this. Of course, we don't know for sure. Exactly the time, but we can calculate it with the facts we have from the Bible. We know it was 6 months approximately earlier, before Mary got fertilized. So we would have a time a little before Nisan first. Now, let's say he goes home here. Zacharias goes home. And so it's possible this is the date when Elizabeth got fertilized. I counted with the conjunctions. Here we have, wait a minute. We have Sun-Moon conjunction here. So this would be our 1st of March, and it would be in the Hebrew calendar the 1st of Adar. And from this then 30 days or 28 days, the Hebrew month on, we would have the day when John the Baptist's heart would have started beating. And we go on. And here we have the heartbeat. Now, if you notice, the heartbeat is exactly at the cusp of Nisan 1. It's exactly at the moment when Nisan 1 starts. And Nisan 1 was the year of their spiritual year. So it's kind of the point 0. This is when John the Baptist's heart started beating on Nisan 1. This would be the dawn of new life, the beginning of their spiritual year. So this is very, very, very interesting. It's the sun and moon are in conjunction, and they are in conjunction in Aries, the Lamb. And here we see these planets. Saturn and Mercury have conjunction, Jupiter have conjunctions, Uranus, they are all still in the constellation of Pisces. So this is when John the Baptist's heart started beating. And it told the priests also in the area of this Partia Scutia Bactria, about new life, and the priests there, the Magi they call themselves, they understood these messages because Daniel had taught these people the Israeli ways, and the priests there did know how to read the stars. They were also very anxious to see Jesus, as it seems that Jesus was more related to this area than to Israel, according to these findings. This is very significant. Then we find from the stars that the Hebrew ways, the way the stars were lit, the way everything ran, exactly fits the biblical text. You are kind of, I was dumbfounded. Now, there's also the possibility that this would have been predictions. I don't think so, because those stars, when people were outside staring at the sky waiting for their priest, that was the moment Angel Gabriel visited Zacharias, and that was then the time that they received this message. Zacharias received the message, and the angel struck him dumb. He thought, listen, Gabriel, okay, I'm an old guy. Don't tell me I'm gonna have a baby at this age. And the angel got angry and struck him dumb. Please respect your angels. They have qualities we are just learning about. But it was good he was dumb and couldn't talk, because in those days the Herods were they were Edomite Herods. They were not Israeli kings, but the Romans had placed Edomite kings, basically the tribe of the dragon, to rule over Israel. They were ruling over all, and these kings wanted to keep the power. Herod was not a very nice man. He later wanted to kill baby Jesus. And if they had known, if the Edomite Herods had known that there was a real high priest being born to the Israeli nation, because Elizabeth was of the daughters of Aaron, I don't think they would have allowed her to live. So, later they killed John the Baptist. They killed Jesus. They also killed Zacharias. So, it's good Zacharias couldn't talk till the day that John the Baptist was born. Now, if we look at the time when John the Baptist was born, it would have been then the 280 days from the calculated last menstrual cycle of Elizabeth. And when we just count that, we come to a day in the year 6 BC. And that would have been the 22nd of November. And here again we can move this this time. We can see what is elsewhere. And at that time, sun lights Mercury, which is in Ophiuchus. Now I like this constellation. It's the snake, or the serpent defeating warrior. Now we know the Virgo is a warrior. just a few words about the constellation of Virgo. It reflects the constellation of Naphtali, who was Bilhah's and Jacob's second son. Bilhah was Rachel's, well, they say in the Bible, slave. I would say servant. And since Rachel couldn't have children, she gave her slave Bilhah, her servant Bilhah, to her husband Jacob, and they had actually 2 sons. And so Naphtali means warrior, fighter, not just a little soldier, but somebody who fights till they have defeated the woe. And here, when John the Baptist is born, it shows he's a warrior, a fighter. I feel for John the Baptist. Can you imagine? He's born and he's told that, oh, you're the greatest prophet that ever lived. You're the greatest of all prophets with the greatest message. And then he has to live in the deserts, plural. He had to move around there too. So I think they tried to hunt him down when they found out. And his father is killed. And Elizabeth was very old, so she might have just passed away. We don't know all the details, but this man went through a lot. And then he's still baptizing and telling about Jesus, fulfilling the purpose and plan God created him for. God bless him. It was a fight, it was a battle. So we respect him for that. And so this was now the birth of John the Baptist. And at his birth, we find out that he was a devil defeating, a serpent defeating warrior, which I think is kind of nice, that even the constellations show it. And I wanted to show something else here. When the time goes on, there was this this time that later the wise men tell Herod about Jesus' birth. Now these 3 wise men, 3 magi, they then left for Israel to find baby Jesus, and they think that Herod is the father of the baby. That's what it looks like anyway. And just try to picture it. They are traveling from what we today would think of as Iraq, maybe, or maybe from all 3 parts of these tribes that lived within Bactria, Parthia, and Scythia, and then later unite. And this was not their approaching Israel. It wasn't just 3 men. These nations were at war. They had helpers. They had people that helped them to find food, and they have people that provided security. And they come all across all this way, and it certainly took some time for them to travel. Totally fearless. I mean, it looks like they didn't care about the war. Parthia and Rome were fighting each other. Rome never conquered Parthia. According to Daniel 7:23, the 4th mystery kingdom will conquer all. Rome never conquered Parthia at that time. It still hasn't. Rome has diminished in size and power and everything. It's just Italy today. So Rome is not the fourth mystery kingdom. Rome is not the fourth kingdom of Daniel 2. But these guys came across vast areas with their camels. I mean, they must have been noticeable. They had it was a caravan of everything. And they just enter, they go straight to see Herodes, totally fearless. I believe they thought he was the king's father, King Jesus' father. I mean, you have, like, if US and the US and Russia are at war, then an American is not gonna walk into Russia and say, "Hi, here I came. Uh, uh, could I have some tea or something?" No. So there must have been a link between them, and I think because they had learned the Israeli ways, they thought they came to a safe place. They thought Herodes was an Israeli king. They must not have known that he was an Edomite king, an enemy. And they trusted it. Then they found out they were wrong. But if we look at the sky, they told Herodes that the star had appeared 2 months earlier. Now, if this was the time of John the Baptist's birth, but if we count the star appeared 9 months earlier, and Jesus was born 6 months after this because they had 6 months difference. If we count 2 years, that they actually arrived 2 years after the star was in the sky, the Star of Bethlehem, then according to my calculations, that would be then approximately 6 plus from the star's birth it would be 2 years. Then Jesus' age would be approximately 9 months old, if these calculations are correct. Now they told very carefully that the star had appeared 2 years before they came, and Herodes then decided to kill all children 2 years and younger. But of course Jesus was born 15 months after the star had appeared. So they actually that means we can calculate Jesus' age from that, figure that out. He would have been around 9 months old, a toddler, a little baby that starts to walk or walks maybe already. So we go on from here. Now let's go on from here. We take approximately the time when they would have met King Herod. And now when this time goes on, if you look at the sky, these planets form a road. In the sky. If Jesus was born in May 6 BC, and if you look the way the sky looks, you have Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, you have Mars and Mercury. They knew how to study the stars, and these form a road in the sky. And if we go from here then to the time, they would have arrived in Israel around this time, around the time that Jesus was about 9 months old. So if we count, Jesus was born in May. The star was lit 15 months before that. And then if we count 9 months to that, we get the 2 years that Herod, they visited Herod. And here we see a very peculiar star constellation. You have Venus, Saturn, in conjunction. And it's odd, it's very bright. So there's something here that we don't necessarily have known. There's a Venus, Moon, Saturn conjunction. This looks very bright. I guess it's very rare, but we don't know exactly what this star was that stood on top of the manger when Jesus was born. That the wise men then left. I will make another clip about the wise men's visit. It's also written in the stars very, very, very exactly. But these are the timelines, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And if you watch this at not Christmas time, I wish you a blessed day. And maybe we could just pray together. So in Jesus' name, thank you, God, for coming to earth. Thank you for bringing your life and your understanding to our human minds. Thank you for the love that you have for us. Thank you, Jesus. And come into our hearts this Christmas. Bless us all and help us to receive you, your spirit and your power and your understanding. In Jesus' name. Thank you so much.